guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Darian with Darian the Dev, and this is week 13 of the Career Progression Bootcamp. I haven't seen you guys in a couple weeks. Things have been a little bit crazy with the whole quarantine and everything. So La and I, like we said, took some time to step back and think about how we wanted to present this next batch of content for the next half of the year, and how we just want to bring everything to you guys. So I'm gonna just go ahead and check the stream real quick. But I'm just really excited to be back here with you guys and catch up. And let me just make sure. All right, cool. So everything sounds good. But I'm excited to just be back and to catch up with you guys on things that we've been working on. Today, I'm going to be presenting on some UI, UX design and concepts. So hopefully, I'll be showing you guys how I do mockups and things like that. So, and giving you some of my resources. So hopefully you guys will be able to take some value away from that. And then La's going to come through with some GraphQL content. So I really hope that that's helpful for you guys as well. I'm going to also throw the comment box up. The last couple of streams, I haven't actually been paying attention to the comments and the reactions and everything while we're on the stream. So I'm going to have that up so that as you guys come in and drop chats and everything, we can respond live to you guys. So yeah, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you're into tech, coding, entrepreneurship, anything like that. That's all we talk about here on this channel. And it's 6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and call La and get the stream started. Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yup. So we finally back. I just did the intro, week 13, believe it or not. Let me see. I'm gonna go ahead and flip over. So I cut out my Ruby and Rails content for this week. I'm gonna just work on that this week and then flesh that out some more, and then that way I'll have some deeper content to go over on that. So if I go here, okay, cool. So, all right. So let me know if you can see my screen and my notes. Whoops. Swing that over here.
13. What, Bentley?
Okay, so let me know if you can see that. I think you should be able to. Yep, we're good. I can see it on my phone. So I'm gonna give the stream just a second to catch up because I know there's a little bit of a lag. But like I said, so this week I'm gonna be going over UI, UX design and concepts. So the reason I think this was important to go over is because in the projects that I was working on, this is something that I need a lot more, I guess, formal education on. So I haven't really taken the time to sit down. I'm not a graphics person. I'm not a design person, artsy, draw, things like that. So I think that's why I got into back-end development. Not to say that you can't use Bootstrap and front-end frameworks to help you just with some of the UI, UX design stuff. And that's kind of what I've always done. But for the project I'm working on right now, is a startup. So I'm actually going to want to make this a custom feel. I don't want to necessarily make everything look like everything else, and I want to also think about the best experience for my users so that they don't have a bunch of unnecessary screens like they did in the first version of my startup. So that's why I want to take a step back and go over some of that stuff. So hopefully this will help anybody out there. A little bit less coding, but just more concepts. But I still think it's really important to every project because something looking good is gonna make people want to stay on it and use it. So concepts. So first thing is UI versus UX design. So they're not the same thing. So when we talk about UI, you're talking about what the user actually does, and that person is going to really worry about the aesthetics. So you're going to be doing the sketching, the visuals, so the prototyping. So you'll see later on how I do this a little bit further down the slides, but this is going to be for those people who have that eye for how things should look, good flat designs, minimalistic graphics, how to convey a company's brand and message and all that good stuff through colors and fonts and types, like typography, I think is what it's called. So all that stuff is, what a UI designer is what they basically do. That's what they're really good at. So the UX person is worried about how things feel and how the flow of the program is for the user. So again, like, this doesn't even have to be somebody who's technical. For example, this could be a person who's just really familiar with the business, or they, maybe even worked in the business in a certain role that they're going to be using this product that is getting built. So they have a really good understanding of the workflow and how people are going to be using the system, and they can help, work with the UI designer or whoever's doing the front end stuff and kind of tell you how the workflow is, where things should be, and basically how to make the screens the most efficient as possible. So they go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing, UI and UX. So one of the concepts is going to be color and contrast. So this is like a quick little chart that just shows, obviously, certain colors go better together than others. Some things can strike you the wrong way and just be really alarming. Like this red on yellow, I think is like really bad on the eyes. You know what I mean? Like, so even this, I think, chart is not that great. It's just something that I grabbed online to just kind of, convey the idea that certain colors go better together than others, and they're easier on the eyes. They could make the whole experience better, depending on just the colors and how you make them work together, how easy it is for people to look at, or how much they can, how easily it is to stay on the screen for them. The next concept was white space. When you're thinking about, how you're going to design your program or how things are going to look, you want to think about where things are on the screen, and white space is a big one, meaning just basically empty space on the screen. So you want things to, depending on what, type of style you're going for or whatever, but things being centered, justified, or using things like CSS, as a CSS grid, CSS flex grid, whatever you call it. But basically the CSS grid helps you with things like white space, you know what I mean? Like centering things and making sure that everything is evenly divided on the screen so that things just have balance. I guess I'm not, like I said, I'm not like a UI UX guru, but I guess we're so used to these things that we don't really think about it when you're designing something, when you're starting out straight up just HTML, CSS, or whatever. You're going to have to do all this stuff yourself unless you have some sort of like visual aid, or you're getting some, like I said, Bootstrap, or you're templating something or getting a template online of how your design is going to look. You're going to have to make all these decisions yourself. So you're going to want to at least have a good understanding of how to balance the content on the screen so that it has that feel that people are used to on the internet, that modern feel, or whatever type of vibe you're going for. You want to be able to capture that through proper white spacing. I thought this one was really interesting, visual hierarchy. So it's this idea that certain things should be displayed on the screen by order of importance, or like utility. So obviously we have a nav bar for a reason. Like a lot of common actions are going to live in our nav bar up at the top. And, things are like logging out, logging in, signing up, maybe account settings, going home. Like, very common things are going to live in our nav bar section. And then more detailed stuff, more descriptive stuff can live further down in the left hand. So again, I'm not trying to describe all this like I'm an expert or a guru, but it's just the idea that things need to or should appear in order of their importance, or it should, the user should be able to kind of like figure things out very easily by how things are sized and placed and where they are on the screen. It can almost give them a visual tutorial of how to use things if you format your visual hierarchy a certain way. There was a concept that our eyes start up here in the top left for some reason. So that's where this number 1 is at. So it's like basically whenever we land on a screen, naturally your eye goes to the top left, or people's attention is focused at the top left corner at the beginning for some reason. So that's why you see a lot of logos placed here, and why this usually is like where things go back home and everything. It's like the most common place where our eyes focus. So there's this whole, these are all concepts you can dig way, way, way deeper into on the internet. But I thought that was really interesting that our eyes go from top left corner to the right and down. Like, this is the flow of like how a user's eyes visually spend the most time on a screen. So I thought that was really interesting, the concept of visual hierarchy. Complexity versus simplicity, I thought was kind of self-explanatory. You know what I mean? Like, things should be simple, and if you make them more complex, it's going to be harder for the user to know how to use it. So, I mean, obviously that is going to come with people bouncing off the website, or, not wanting to sign up or return once they've signed up. So, I thought that one didn't really need visual aids. I thought that was pretty self-explanatory. So to go hand in hand with this, to do like a demonstration of everything we just talked about, I'm going to show you guys some mockups that I did this week. And these are actually for the project that I'm working on, one of the projects that I'm working on. So there's not going to be a ton of stuff, because obviously I can't show you everything, but you'll get the gist of kind of the thought process of what I was thinking, and where and how we kind of can bring all the stuff we just talked about into an action item. So first thing, I mocked up a login screen. I'm using a site here called Go Mockingbird, so I'll show you guys at the very end the link. So these are just, you can do this with paper, you can do this with Google, I think it's called Google Draw or Draw.io. You can do this in Adobe. Shout out to some of the commenters from previous videos, told me about there's Adobe products for UI UX design. I don't know exactly what they're called, but if you look them up on Google, you will find out, there's a lot of paid and free products that are, ways of doing this right here. So by no means is this the only way of doing mockups or anything like that. This is just a simple website. It's not free, but I took screenshots instead of like exporting my project or everything. So, there's always a way around stuff, but don't take this as the way you have to do mockups. This is just the way I chose to do them. And yeah, the whole idea is just, I want to be able to send this to a user and get their feedback before I code anything. So I'm going to, send them as many screens as possible and make it, just as realistic as I can. So this is my login screen, and I'm only going to send them their workflow. So for example, this is going to be a teacher's workflow. I'm not going to send them an admin workflow or a student workflow. I'm going to only send them the workflow for a teacher. So teacher dashboard without a menu expanded looks like this. And the reason I had that in there is because, so I guess before we move on, so one thing you can see, like, in my dashboard, I want to be able to, capture certain information. I want to, again, the visual hierarchy. So up here, I'm showing some analytics. This is basically what this is representing, some data that I want to show on my dashboard for the teacher. So with that being shown, up at the very top, I'm going to make this as part of, the visual hierarchy concept. I'm going to make this at the very top, and I'm going to make it big and individual and modularized and everything, because I want them to focus on these analytics. This is going to help them make decisions. This is going to basically speed up their current workflow. So by putting it at the very top of the screen and giving it its own unique kind of design of how it's displayed, not saying that it'll look like this at the end, but just trying to show them that, this is going to be represented in a certain way that's separate from everything else on the screen at the very top, so that they can see a snapshot of certain information. And again, like I said, just giving them a realistic feel of how it would be used. And also, this is with, obviously I have a menu icon up here, again, visual hierarchy, so this would be a very important button. If they click this, they would obviously get more options, but I wanted to make it clear to the person who I'm sending this to that this is without the menu expanded. So I want to show them now with the menu expanded, and then another one. So this is basically simulating the click of that menu button right there, and I actually show them what that would look like. So again, just trying to give them, and this is pretty much a copy and paste job, when you are doing these things, if you're making them screen by screen, a lot of things you'll be able to just copy it over, and to show like actions in the app, you can just copy everything you design, put it in a new one, and then just add things, on top of that and stuff like that. And just that is your way of simulating your interactions. So again, this is a different screen, but, showing them how modals will pop up and how things would actually appear. Again, another one. So this is like creating a project and then editing a project. Again, another pop-up, but just giving them the idea, the feel that there would be, modals popping up where they can interact with. So if you guys want to use that resource, it's called gomockingbird.com. And then another really good one is balsamic.com. I've used both of these for both mockups and prototyping. So Go Mockingbird, which you guys just saw me using, is basically a mockup tool. It has a bunch of those elements already built. So like buttons and input fields and text fields and, calendars and whatever you can imagine, like avatar, pictures, whatever you can imagine, it already has it over there. It's not a free resource, but you can design something for free and take screenshots like I did. Or you can also do like the paid tiers and everything like that. And then Balsamic is more for prototyping. So this one, you can actually go in and create an app that you can send people a link, and you can actually program the clicks of buttons on user actions. You can program swipes and everything like that without even coding. You can literally design like your entire application, screen transitions, everything, all inside of Balsamic, and then send people a link to actually use it, whether it's on a desktop or a mobile device, and it'll be responsive and everything out the box. So it's an incredible prototyping tool. I haven't used it in a while, but so I'm not sure if it's free or not, but it's an incredible tool for prototyping. So to summarize everything, UI design is not UX design. They're two totally different things, but they go hand in hand in order to give an application like a good user experience. We talked about pretty much the core concepts: color and contrast, white space, visual hierarchy, complexity versus simplicity, and we talked about mockups and how to create them. So, any feedback, Lara? Any thoughts while I switch over to you?
I like your mockups. I definitely like your mockups. I thought it was good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's a really dope tool. Cause I'm really bad at drawing and just like doing mockups. So I like having that stuff already made and just being able to drag everything and drop it. All right, so I got yours up. I see it's a little lag on the screen.
I'm good with you. Wait, I know you're in your summer. All right. I see. We can go to the agenda from where you are. All right. So today I'll talk about some GraphQL. At work, I've been doing a lot of work last week and a half or so in GraphQL and React Native. Didn't really know a lot about it, just knew a little bit about it. So in order to do I'm sort of debugging. So I'm debugging someone else's code. So it makes it very difficult to debug someone else's code if I don't really understand what GraphQL is actually supposed to be doing or how it's actually supposed to work, so I can determine whether or not GraphQL is the problem when I'm debugging. So, like I said, I've been doing a lot of work with it. So today I'll just talk a little bit about the things that I've sort of found interesting with GraphQL. So I'm going to go over the foundations of it, what GraphQL actually is, how to use GraphQL, and just give you a little code example, show you some of the code examples that I have from a project I built while I was learning how to do GraphQL. Oh, yeah. I'm way behind you. Wait.
Oh, my bad.
What screen do you have?
I just flipped to the beginnings.
All right. So yeah, we way behind. I'm way a little bit. Our screen is way
yeah,
behind.
I see. Yeah.
But I guess while we're waiting for some of the beginning, I think some things to talk about some history of it. GraphQL was founded in 2012. I wouldn't say founded per se, but It was created in 2012 by Facebook. And sort of how I sort of see GraphQL is like sort of how I see React a little bit. I guess since Facebook is doing so much work in the space, I think that they try to figure out ways to make coding more best practice, the best way to get things done. So I don't know. For a while, I thought GraphQL was sort of like a query language, like SQL. Um, However, as I was doing this project and sort of preparing for these slides, I realized that I was wrong. GraphQL is not a query language per se. It's an API. It's an API for query language per se. So actually, now I'm curious. I want to look more into it and see how Facebook actually built this out. But if I'm understanding this correctly, it pretty much is just an API over top of your HTTP request. So it does all the work for you. So how GraphQL sort of is helpful is that instead of you writing an HTTP request where you have to put your headers in, or fetch requests with your post request or your put request, you don't have to do any of that stuff here with GraphQL. I'm assuming that there's some type of this API sits on top of that type of stuff, and it allows you to just sort of write your queries like you would write a JSON object, and it sort of responds to you. It knows how to respond based on how you're writing the queries. So I thought that was pretty much pretty interesting to understand that it's really an API. And it sort of makes sense now, because when I was writing GraphQL, in order to write a lot of things, when I showed you guys code, I had to use a lot of packages. I had to use a lot of the variables in the packages, a lot of the functions in the packages. So it sort of makes sense now. Also, it's an alternative to REST. So, like I just said before, that it doesn't, it removes you having to do like post requests or put requests and stuff like that. It removes you having to do that. Also, for me, I build a lot of apps. What I find cool with it is that sometimes when I'm building an app, I have to make like 3 or 4 different calls at that one time. Sometimes they're connected and sometimes they're not. And when I use fetch and React, a lot of times I have to write that function like 3 or 4 times in a row. What I find interesting with GraphQL is that I don't have to do that. They have a lot of unique ways where you can just pull all your data in one query with one endpoint. So I think that's very interesting as well. It's open source right now. So although it was developed by Facebook put it out there, so now it's maintained by companies and individual contributors and a different type of community, so from all over the world. So that's pretty much the sort of the humble beginnings of GraphQL. And pretty much it just, I guess my next slide is just a one-liner. You can go and skip right through it, but it just talks about GraphQL just pretty much just defining how a client can load data from a server. And that's pretty much it. How do you get your data back? If you work with a lot of full-stack applications, you'll start to understand what I'm saying. When you're trying to get data, you got to query something, and it's just how do you want that data to come back? How much data do you want? What type of data do you want? And when you're doing HTTP requests, sometimes it gets I'm just confusing. I wouldn't even say confusing. I probably would say you just have to it becomes redundant. You have to do it so many times that you want to look for an easier way to do it. I guess GraphQL definitely provides you a more simpler way. It's definitely easier to write. So we'll move on to what is GraphQL. So it enables declarative fetching, data fetching, like I said before, where you can just pretty much tell it what you want. So you don't have to worry about your HTTP, where you have to go to your database and query your data and bring back that select star from and bring back all that data. You can query what you want. You only want a book. You have a I don't know, an API with books, and you only want a book. You only want the author of that book. You can have a query where you just get that back. You don't have to query for the book and the relationship to the author and all that stuff. You just query for the author and get that back. So it makes it a lot more simpler to get back what you want when you want. And the goal is, again, not having multiple endpoints. So with GraphQL, I guess I can reiterate that. You only have one endpoint, period, for GraphQL. So whereas if I was doing an app, say a basic app, I have something like I want to log in, I want to pull down a list of something, right? I would have an endpoint to log in. I have an endpoint to sign up if you don't have a login account. I have an endpoint to pull down that list of whatever the data is. With GraphQL, you have one endpoint. One endpoint does every single thing you need to do. Log in, pull down data, sign up, delete data, update data. It does everything. One endpoint.
So you're saying the app that you're working on specifically has one endpoint, or like all GraphQL apps have one endpoint?
Your query request. So like when you request, like I said, my example again. So like if you have, like your app, your particular app, your Who's app. When your first person logs in, you have an endpoint. I don't know, just say it's for the sake of it, HTTP localhost./login. And you hit that endpoint sends you to your backend. right?
Mm-hmm.
So now once they logged in, all right, boom. Now they're there, and you want to know if they're a teacher or a student, but you got that from the login information. So that's cool. That's great. So now if they're a teacher, you want to pull down all their classes. That's the endpoint for those classes. HTTP localhost blah 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 / classes. So you have to call that endpoint to get it. With GraphQL, your endpoint is HTTP localhost GraphQL. That's it. That one endpoint,
Oh,
you get the
right. Okay,
login,
and
you
then you
get everything from that one endpoint.
just pass what you want in the URI, right?
No, you don't have to do anything in the URI. That URI stays the same. Now you're doing JSON objects. Right?
Oh, okay,
Query.
okay,
So
okay,
you don't have
okay,
that
okay.
one URL. Yep.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep. So client side. So the client side for all intents and purposes right now, I'm talking about React. But of course, it could be Vue, it could be Angular, it could be anything. It could be React Native. Right now, I'm working with React. So I'm talking about React. So the benefits of GraphQL on your client side is that you can send queries and mutations directly without constructing HTTP requests. Like I said to you before, that's the biggest deal. You don't have to make all those different requests with all those different endpoints to get the data that you need. View integration. So like sometimes your data, the whole purpose of React is React is a UI framework for JavaScript, and it allows you to manipulate the UI for the user in an easier way, in a simpler way than you could if you did JavaScript. When you're using React and you're using regular HTTP, sometimes actually pulling your data from the database and making those requests makes it very difficult based on how you want the data to be viewed. You have to think about, okay, if I pull it from here, how is it going to be rendered and all that stuff. So sometimes, actually HTTP gets in the way of you viewing your data the way you want your user to view your data. So with GraphQL, you can integrate both at the same time. Because you only have that one endpoint, you can call the data you want in the spot that you need it. So now you can think about your view at the same time your data. You don't have to think about them in two different ways. I'll show you an example more of that. Actually, we should be moving along. I'm sorry. We probably should move along. So these are the five I'm going to talk about. So I'm going over them now. I'm probably going to go over them again. But caching, this also helps with caching. GraphQL has a lot of built-in functionality. I'll show you more details about that as we move to the slides, where a lot of things that you have to do on your own, you have to go for example, and we talk about optimistic or pessimistic rendering. So if you did something like, if you had a teacher and you had a teacher create a class, and they created a class, if you weren't using sockets, if you were using HTTP, your user would have to refresh in order for them to see that new class list on your teacher list.
Right.
GraphQL has a lot of built-in functions where you don't have to do any of that stuff. They already have caching, they already have refetching.
Oh, wow.
They're already done. It's as simple as writing a line of code, and that stuff is already done without you having to do anything else.
Wow.
Validation optimization, again, because everything comes in that one JSON type of object, you can manipulate a lot of your data validations all in that one object. You don't have to do all these extra, with HTTP, you can't validate your information right then and there. You have to write a specific code outside of that.
Right, exactly, yeah. Yep.
So with GraphQL, you can do all of that stuff right inside of that.
Huh.
So we'll move on. So the first one, a few you have up right there is the send queries and mutation directly. So this is what a query and a mutation would look like in GraphQL. Simple as that. So if you look at it, it gets book query. That's the name of the query. The GQL is, like I said, it's the API. So GQL is one of the methods or functions within that API. And that sort of JSON typey object is not JSON object, but it gives you a look and feel of a JSON object. So books, that's the query that we're going after. We're going after the table or the model that's books. And from that table, that model, we want to return the name and the ID. And it's simple as that. That's it. That's how I wrote the query. So how you would write your fetch request, where you put const response equal await fetch, and you put your URL, then the next line const data equal await response.json, all that right there, that one book's name, the ID, is all you need. That's all of that right there in that one request.
Okay, so one sec. So basically, you can. So how do you use this when you want to make a request? Like you just use the variable and just pass it like a name and ID, or?
Yep. So we'll as we're going on, I'll show you more how you use it. So you save that question. We'll get to that question when we get to the end. All right.
Yep.
So we'll go to the next slide.
Yeah, I flipped you. It might take a sec.
All right. So the next one is the viewer layer integration and UI updates. That's what I was telling you about, how you can do two things in one. So what I did in this one, I just wanted to show the code of it. I know I'm gonna leave it behind, so but I'll talk a little bit about the words like that. I'm waiting for it. So pretty much like I said, once you get the data back, a lot of times you spend a lot of time when you're dealing with React trying to figure out how you want to show it and how you want the data to come back. GraphQL makes it a lot easier. It makes it very easy to be able to show your data in a way that's easy for you. So you asked the question, I'm about to answer it right now. Right here on the top part, 1 through 4 of the code written, line 2 and line 3. Line 2 is actually the GraphQL from the library from the React Apollo. That's the import you install. And I have a queries file where I wrote that that I showed you. So display books is a function. It's a function with inside of that particular component that I'm going to call these books in. And what the display books is doing is retrieving my data. So it's almost like, your HTTP request, I guess you want to say, but it's really not. So that const loading books error, once you import get books query, it automatically, you see number 3, get books import query. Then in the bottom, export default GraphQL get book in the bottom, export default. That's a higher order component. So it's wrapping. I'm wrapping my entire book list. Book list is the component name. I'm wrapping that entire book list component in get books query in GraphQL.
Oh, library. Wow.
So what happens is that's how my data is given to me. So that first line you see where it says this props.data, that's the data from get books query that I called, and all that came because I imported on line number 3. And you know the type of data I have, because if you don't have to flip back, but if you on your own want to flip back to that slide I showed you before where you saw book name ID, that's the query that's the data that's going to come through in that get book query. All that type of data.
So how does display books get called?
I called it so I call it I cut it out. So in the return function of the component where you see return, I just put display books.
Okay. Oh, wow.
You'll see. I think I might have it in the other one. Okay. That's what happened.
All right, I just flipped you. So we're on the caching.
Oh, all right. Hey, go back. Well, all right. Well, I'll go back to it. All right. So we go back to caching. So caching, like I said to you before, there's a lot of things that are built into it. So this is another one of those. At the top you see is another one of the. It comes with the cache exchange. Comes with is the library that comes in it. Feed query is a component. And pretty much this mutation, as you see, this is the whole GraphQL, the GraphQL mutation and update. So if you have an update or delete, anytime you're doing anything in data, anytime you're manipulating your data in GraphQL and you're not just calling your data, you're not querying data, it's called the mutation. So either you have a query where you're just getting a list of books, you're getting all books, you're getting something, or everything else when you're trying to manipulate the data, it's gonna be called the mutation. So here is the mutations here, and pretty much all I'm showing here is that within this function here, there's ability to cache, so that now if you're on your mobile device or you're on your regular web device and your user using it, they will only refresh if the data is being pulled is different, and they're able to tell that within the GraphQL stuff. Because again, GraphQL is an API, so a lot of these functions are built within it.
So this is an example of you posting some data with using GraphQL?
This is an example from online. So this is the extra example. I didn't use cache in my app. I needed it.
Okay.
This is just an example online.
But so you can post and get information as well with GraphQL.
You can post. You do everything. You post, get, delete, update. You do everything. Everything with it. Everything. Yeah. Everything you do with HTTP. Everything you can do with GraphQL. So we'll go to the next one, build time, schema validation, optimization.
Okay, I flipped you. Might take a sec. Oh. Whoa.
So the build time. Most databases have schemas. So, schema tells you how your data is sort of laid out in your model. In your database, so that you can know how you can query it. So GraphQL, because of the API, it's sort of the same concept, right? You need to know how you're going to query this data. You need to know how you're going to use the GraphQL to get what you need to get. So because of that, you build out schemas so that you're identifying how you're going to use the data. So this right here is the example of my mutation schema. So anytime I want to mutate any type of the data for this particular application, this is the entire schema. Fortunately, I only had two examples in this one, was an author and a book, so I only needed two mutations, but these are the mutations that I made on this. If you notice, we see things like new, GraphQL, non-null. That's part of that API I told you that you have to, that comes with GraphQL. So this is how they identify the types. I talk more about when I get to the server side, how GraphQL actually queries to figure out where your data is. And that's where all this stuff will come into. But GraphQL needs to know what type of data it is. That's pretty much that.
But still, it's almost, it's wild because it's like validating everything because it's strictly typed. Like
exactly. And even with the resolve part of it, you see the resolve. That's what. So what we're saying in the first part, fills is all the information that should be there, right? So that's the scheme of it. And resolve is what we're getting back. Resolve means what they're going to give me back. So in this resolve, they're going to give me back a new offer. They're going to save a new offer. All right.
Mm-hmm.
To the next one. And this one is just I'm talking about again more about the views and your data dependency, how you can keeping everything together closely knitted. In this example right here, particularly, I'm showing you I'm submitting data, so it's a submit function. I'm on a click button, so somebody pressed a button, they had a form, they press a button, all that data from that form I want to submit it. And what's interesting about this is how I'm adding that mutation. So this is it. This .prof add mutation variable right there, that sent all that information to my database and it created a new book for me. That's it.
Wow.
New book.
Wow.
So once they press that button right there, that sent that to my database, it created a new book.
Nice.
That line you see underneath that where it says refresh queries, that's where it's going to automatically now refresh that list for me. So that book that I just created will automatically be on that book list without me having to refresh my user.
Wow, that's really dope.
Yep.
You save yourself a couple different functions, like in a few lines.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
very smooth.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I got you on server side.
Server side, we'll talk about these two, just GraphQL execution and batch resolving. So again, I talked about the benefits of the client side, and I'm going to talk about some benefits of the server side as it relates to GraphQL.
Okay.
So GraphQL execution.
Yep, I got you there.
Yep, so pretty much we're just talking about how it's executed, right? Like, how does this work? We talk about that, for me, I'm pretty sure you're thinking about it as well, because you've been doing all this studying these last couple of weeks, but it makes you think, right? Like, you know how HTTP work with the handshake, right? You know how, whether you have a controller, whether you're using C# or I'm using or Rails or anything, or I'm using Node or something like that, we know how controllers work, right? So how does GraphQL work? All I'm saying right now is that we type in a query. This is how you make your query. You see that right there. Type query, author ID. That's I'm creating or defining a query right then and there. Then the next underneath that query, now I'm defining how I want to get what I want to get back from that query. So I have query, author, ID. That author will be ABC. Then I'm saying you see post right there. So that post will let you know that author must have a relationship with post. So now I'm saying, give me an author whose name ID is ABC. On top of that, give me back all their posts associated with them, and give me the title and the content of those posts.
Oh wow, I see, yeah.
That's what that query is all saying, right? So in your mind you think, all right, so like, what if I have an offer and the offer has 100 posts? How are they gonna get the post, right? Like, this computer science. Like, how do I know? How are they gonna get it the same way every time? Like, how do I need to know how are they gonna get it? And so what they do is they do breadth depth search, and they search by field first. So if you go to the opposite side there, it just shows you on that side, the top shows you that they know, you saw that in my other mutation scheme, and I just showed you a slide before, that the GraphQL knows based on that schema what each of those fields are, right? They know the string, they know it's the title, they know that's a post, they know all that stuff, because I outlined that in the schema earlier. So at the bottom, when we get to the resolve, we see query.author root, this is how they're doing their breadth search. So they first go to the author. Once they get all the information from the author, then they grab all that information. They give all that information to the child, which happens to be the post, and then they go and they do their post. And that's how they get all the information.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's crazy. I got you on batch processes.
So in this one, just talked about this pertains to you too. Say something for a class, you want to fetch all the students. And for whatever reason, I don't know if you've ever tried it before, when you do fetch, you can't batch fetch. Meaning that if you need to fetch 5 different students, you couldn't just put fetch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to make 5 different fetch functions. It's really weird. You can't do them back to back like that, or you have to nest them. So this right here is showing you that if you were going to do that here, all you need to do is if you flip to your right side and the bottom, instead of doing fetch, all right, so you got the left side where it says fetch authors 1, authors 2, authors 1, authors 2, right? If you go to the right side and you see the bottom, in regular fetch, you have to do it like that. Fetch 1, authors 1, fetch 1, authors 2, fetch 1, authors 1, we have to do it like that. But in GraphQL, all we have to do is fetch author's ID 1 equal 2, and it'll do the same thing it did on the left side. So that's how you do your batch process.
So it'll just return you back a bigger object with more authors in it.
Yep. Like I said, understand that the difference is that in fetch you have to do each one of those fetch with their own. That fetch function, you have to write that function 5 different times because you couldn't, or you have to nest it inside of it, but you still have to write it 5 different times. You couldn't just write one line. So code examples. All right. So I think this might answer some of your other questions, but this is some examples of the client server queries. So the left side, your left side is your client side, and your right side is your server side. So that's what the query looks like. So on the right side, that's how I wrote the query on my server side. So you think about that, you write that in your Rails, you write that in C#. That's how you write, the database stuff. And then on your left side is how you write it in React. And that's it. That's simple. The top I showed you again is deconstructed, but GraphQL, we imported that in from the GraphQL package, and all those things inside the parentheses are all methods or functions for the API. So those things come with GraphQL, and that's how GraphQL knows how to do what it needs to do when it does your batch processing and everything else it does. And then the last one, I just gave you the schema data API again, just put it side by side. So one side is the root query. Remember I talked to you about.
Wait, next slide, or same one?
I'm sorry, next slide. Yeah.
Okay. I got you. It might take a sec.
So yeah, this slide is talking about it's just showing you again the schema and the data API that you have, that your data and how you want to query your data. So this is a schema that you write. You write because you got to let GraphQL know how your data is connected, how your data is related, and what's in your data, so that you're telling GraphQL how it's going to pull your data. So remember I told you before that in GraphQL you either are going to query something where you just want to pull a list of stuff, or you're going to mutate it, whether you have update, delete, update or delete. Yeah, update or delete. So either way, you have your mutations schema and you have your root query schema, and those are the two schemas that you have. And those names, everything you see in red, are all part of the APIs, except for like book type, snarl type. That's my name.
So root query is one schema, and mutation is
another schema. Yep. So root query you see right there is where if you call any of those, you call books, it's gonna give you back one book. Books, it'll give you back a whole list of books. On the other side of communications, you see add author is gonna add an author, is gonna create an author. Add book is gonna create a book.
Okay, yeah. So those are like endpoints almost? Like,
no, they're not. It's just method. I would say they just method names.
No, I'm saying like it's like like add author, add book, like those are like the equivalent of in HTTP, like, or like how we would have a endpoint for.
Well, that. I wouldn't say that. I don't know what you're saying. So what I'm assuming you're saying is that those are the names that let React know, or let whoever know.
Yep.
Yes, you're right there, but I wouldn't say endpoint, because no, you wouldn't put GraphQL / at author. No, you would not.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, got you.
That's why I wouldn't say endpoint.
Okay, got you. Next slide.
That's pretty much it. That's all I have. That's all my code example. That's my GraphQL. I mean, like I said, my experience with it, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know, I'm really biased. You know me, I'm always wanting to use certain things for certain things. But I don't know, GraphQL right now I think it's pretty cool. Like, I don't really see a reason right now why I wouldn't use this instead of what I was currently using with Fetching, because it's really straightforward. Like, it's much easier, and it does a lot of the it has a lot of built-in tools for you. So building apps, it'd be a lot smoother for it. I don't really see any, in my experience, my limited experience of using it.
Right. Okay, so one question I have is like, so for an app that isn't currently, let's say there an app currently has like a REST API or whatever, how would you go about getting it or like onto GraphQL or to use GraphQL or integrate? Like, I guess what's the process of getting an app connected to GraphQL or using it?
So yeah, I wouldn't use HTTP. Unless I was doing something like building some type of microservices project where I had certain things going to HTTP and certain things going to GraphQL, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Other than that, I wouldn't use them together. I would use them for two separate purposes. And I told you, I don't know enough yet now to tell you why I would use one over the other. I don't know enough yet to know why. GraphQL just seems a little easy for me right now. And GraphQL, where you need to get it started, it's a package. So you pretty much have to install the package. It's an API. The GraphQL itself is an API. So whatever you're using, like Ruby has a GraphQL package, Node has a GraphQL package.
And then you just write everything based on that, and like just.
But it takes you to install. That's it. So what you saw my code, which is right, the schema. So in your backend, whether it was Ruby or whether it was C# or Node, somehow you'll write that schema out like that because you got to tell GraphQL what are your models and what's your model, what fields on them and stuff like that, and what related to who. And then you'll use the other part of your front end.
And then are those like GraphQL files or like what type of files are those? Or you just write it inside just JavaScript?
Well, for me, I mean, I wrote this in Node, so these are my nodes. So I wrote it in Node and I wrote it in React, so I use that.
Okay.
I know it comes in Ruby, but I haven't did it in Ruby, so I don't know.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? But I do know that it's Ruby template.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I gotta get my hands dirty. I haven't done any GraphQL myself, but I'm super interested in using it and just kind of just getting involved with it. But yeah, that was really good though. That was a great example. It was great everything, great slides. So, yeah, y'all, we're gonna wrap it up week 13. So that's our UI UX and GraphQL kind of talk right here. So let us know if this was helpful, you guys, in the comments or anything like that. Let us know if you want to hear about anything specifically, if you have any questions about our projects or anything like that. And then we'll see y'all next week for week 14. All right, well, holla, y'all. Peace.